Hello and welcome to For Your Journey. I'm Travis.
And I'm Andrew.
And today is going to be our Colgate episode.
Collegiate. Why would we do an episode on toothpaste?
I don't know. I thought it was like just it's our fresh episode, or it's our fresh and clean. Like
Well, here is a fresh episode.
4 out of 5 dentists recommend this episode or something.
Yeah. Well, here is a fresh episode anyway. It's about college students.
All right.
Because this is our collegiate episode.
It makes a little bit more sense since we're wearing some college attire here.
Right. My alma mater, Robert Morris.
Cal State, University of Northridge.
Yeah. So the question we're going to discuss today is how can we serve college students? We've talked a lot about intergenerational relationships in the past couple For Your Journeys. Mm-hmm. And so this one's going to focus on college students that are a part of the broader millennial generation.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting and important to take maybe a step back and identify that millennial generation, one of the largest windows of years that defines that generation. There's a couple different arguments out there of is it this group, is it this group. The widest one says anyone kind of born between 1980 and 2000.
Yeah.
And we're focusing on that because this college group is like a subset of that.
Right. And when we're talking about intergenerational relationships, it's interesting. Barna Group, who does a lot of research about millennials, has talked about there are many millennials leaving the church, and of those that are leaving the church, 70% say that they did not have a relationship with another adult. That's not a promising number for a church, which is an organization that is about these intergenerational relationships.
Right.
That doesn't sound great, and so we want to see how can we push that in a good direction. How can we see that number shrink in the future?
Yeah. I think another important thing to identify is when we talk about, Barna's statistic about the church, it's the church kind of as a whole, not necessarily the Apostolic Church, but like a lot of churches have this as a challenge about engaging with millennials and with young adults and whatnot, not just to retain them, but like how to invest in them relationally.
Right.
And that's kind of what we want to talk about, how to serve them.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that like this relationship thing is not just about getting something out of it.
Yeah.
And it's good to think about that because like Barna is also saying this is not a cause, this is just a correlation.
Yeah.
So we're not saying if we get this number down to 0, we're going to see all the millennials stay in the church.
Yeah.
We're doing it because that's what we should be doing.
Right.
That's what Jesus calls us to do.
And that's what he did. He would serve people. He would love people. He would feed people. He would heal people with no expectation. Like, all right, now do this for me. Like, he just did it because he was demonstrating God's love to all people.
Right. So that's a good point, too. One way we can serve college students is feed them.
Yeah.
So
college students love food. I did when I was a college student. I still do.
I did, too. So one fun way to really connect with a college student is just say, hey, want to grab lunch or want to grab dinner. It could be just a little window between their classes, and maybe if you're intimidated by that could lighten the stress of it. You got just one window that you're going to spend with this college student.
Because it's between classes, like there's a definite end.
Yeah.
Like you got to go to the next class. Yeah.
Right. So that could be one way is to just grab a lunch with a college student.
Yeah. If a college student maybe is far from home or far from you and you're not able to pick them up or meet for lunch somewhere, I know people enjoy getting care packages, anything in the mail, with a lot of email and texts and technology communication. It's nice to get something physical in the mail that you can...
Something real and tangible.
Yeah, care packages, showing that you care for them, you've taken the time and you've gone out of your way. It can include things like some practical school needs, pens, pencils, Scantrons, notebooks, note cards, like whatever they would need, but also some just fun snacks, junk food, gift cards.
Right. And if that is maybe a little bit too big of a scale thing, another way is to just go straight for the gift card and do maybe a personal note or a card or something like that. It can be a really cool way to connect with a college student in a meaningful way.
Yeah, because sometimes for college students, that may be the first time that they're away from home or experiencing those types of transitions. There's a lot of not just influences, but there's a lot of just emotions and all kinds of changes.
Right.
And one of the constant factors would be any relationships that they've had in their home congregation, in their hometown, or their family, or whatever.
And while this may be the first time they're away from home, it may be the first time they receive a handwritten card.
Yeah.
So that could be kind of a cool experience.
Yeah.
So as you build a relationship with a college student, there is sometimes then opportunity also to share your own story too. That can be an important part of relationship, and a lot can be learned by transferring those stories from one generation to the next. An important piece there is just that it's a humble conversation and it's two-sided, and that there can feel like there's a natural exchange of stories. So that's, I think, a piece.
Yeah. I think even before getting to that point where you're sharing some deep personal stories or your own journey or whatever, you can just, what are you studying? Some easy conversation starters. What are you studying? Right. What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? If perhaps they're undecided, because that happens too. If they're undecided in a major, what inspired you to go to this school instead of another school? There's a lot of different conversation starters there.
Yeah. And in those initial conversations where like you're really just talking about almost nothing, but there's an opportunity for some interests that kind of pop up. And I think an important part of engaging in relationship ever, but also with college students, is taking an interest in the same things that the student has interest in. So saying, okay, like you're interested in some particular sport. Tell me more about that sport. I don't know too much about it. Or when's your next game? Or take an interest in their interests. I think is an important part of relationship.
Yeah, with also identifying some healthy boundaries too. Like you don't want to, for the sake of relationship, turn into some kind of stalker or something.
Right.
But like you want to just show an interest without it being too overbearing.
Yeah. It's a friendship. Yeah. And I think it's not a ploy.
Yeah.
Like it may be hard to conquer generational barriers, and we may need to be intentional about it. That's okay. It's not some kind of robotic process. It's not a mechanism to get people to do something or to get them into church. It's about, like what we said at the beginning, it's about loving one another like Christ has commanded.
Yeah, and if there's this wall, maybe that's an excuse sometimes, like, well, I just don't get them or they don't get me. Like that could be a wall. Take the steps to get to know each other so that that wall isn't there.
Right. And I think that's a lot of what Christianity is about, is breaking down those walls and all of that coming around together to be relational, to be about relationship.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of For Your Journey. If you have any suggested questions or topics for future discussion, you can find us on Facebook or Twitter. And once again, I'm Travis.
And I'm Andrew.
And this has been For Your Journey.